In a culture where nearly everyone is chasing a spotlight they cannot afford and a love story none of them can prove, Coco Jones just did the one thing this generation forgot was even possible, and Coco Jones did it with a quiet certainty that made the entire internet stop scrolling. And what makes it even more explosive is that while the rest of the industry was staging fake engagements, staging fake proposals, and staging fake weddings for the algorithm, Coco Jones was moving under the surface with a purpose most of these so-called stars couldn't fake if their careers depended on it, and now Coco Jones has walked into history in a way that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming this fast. Because the truth about what just went down between Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell is not the wedding. It is not the dress. It is not the flowers dripping from that cream-colored tent like the ceiling was crying gold. The truth about Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell is that they just pulled off the most quietly devastating power move in celebrity relationships this decade, and half of Hollywood is refusing to admit it out loud. And when you find out what Cardi B just got dragged into on the exact same weekend, and how these two stories are secretly connected in a way nobody in the mainstream media has the guts to say, you are going to look at this entire week completely differently. Wait until you hear this, because before we go any further into what really happened at that wedding, into why Donovan Mitchell allegedly slid into her DMs with a red heart she never even saw, into why the timing of this thing is suspicious in the best way possible, and into why Cardi B suddenly getting dragged into a viral fighting video in the exact same news cycle is not the coincidence people think it is, I need you to do something small for me. Hit that like, drop a comment, and tell me right now whether you think Coco Jones just became the blueprint or whether the internet is about to try to tear this beautiful thing apart the way it tears everything apart. Because trust me, by the time we finish walking through this, you are going to see there is more happening under the surface than any of these blogs are willing to say. And the receipts speak for themselves. Now let me set the stage properly, because a story like this deserves the full picture. Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell officially tied the knot on Saturday, and the way they did it was cinematic in a way weddings almost never are anymore. Picture this. A massive tent. Cream fabric spilling from every corner like water. Flowers hanging down from the ceiling like a garden had been flipped upside down just for them. And in the middle of it all, Coco Jones walked out in a gown so gorgeous that the room forgot how to breathe. Donovan Mitchell stood there in a cream tux that matched her energy so perfectly that you could tell this wasn't a costume, this was a coordinated vision. This was two people who had spent 2 years quietly building the same picture in their heads and finally letting the world see it. And Coco Jones did not look like a woman who was performing for the cameras. Coco Jones looked like a woman who had already won long before the ceremony started. And Donovan Mitchell did not look like a man who had just signed the biggest contract of his career. Donovan Mitchell looked like a man who had finally arrived home. And that is what I want everybody to sit with for a second. Because a figure like Coco Jones did not stumble into this moment. Coco Jones engineered it. She built the career, she built the discipline, she built the reputation, and then she built the relationship, and the entire time everybody else was busy chasing headlines, Coco Jones was moving quiet with a purpose. That is the part nobody wants to talk about, because it doesn't fit the narrative these blogs like to sell. They want you to believe that women in the industry get lucky. They want you to believe that a star like Coco Jones must have been carried by somebody, must have been discovered by somebody, must have been handed something. Cut through the noise for a second and look at what actually happened. Coco Jones grinded. Coco Jones stayed the course. And now Coco Jones is a Mitchell. And that arc, that quiet arc, is the arc every single artist coming up right now should be studying like a playbook. Let's go back to the beginning of this thing, because the origin story matters here. Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell first crossed paths in 2023 at a networking event. Not a red carpet. Not a club. Not some staged industry afterparty engineered for photographs. A networking event. And Coco Jones has said publicly that they clicked immediately, that there was something present in the room the second they met that told both of them this was going to matter. But here is the twist that makes this story land differently. Donovan Mitchell had already tried to shoot his shot before that meeting. Donovan Mitchell slid into her DMs with a single red heart, and Coco Jones never saw the message. Never opened it. Never even knew he had reached out. And Coco Jones herself, with the kind of self-awareness these young stars rarely show, has since said that it is probably a good thing she never saw that DM because a message like that alone would not have moved her. And that one detail, that tiny throwaway detail, is where the entire foundation of this marriage was actually built. Let that land for a second. Because what a moment like that reveals is not just Coco Jones's standard. What it reveals is that the universe had a bigger plan for these two than a red heart emoji could ever contain. And here's the thing about Coco Jones. Coco Jones has always operated on a frequency that a lot of her peers cannot touch. Coco Jones is not one of these artists who trades her dignity for algorithmic attention. Coco Jones is not one of these women who allows herself to be reduced to whatever the internet wants her to be that week. Coco Jones has built a career on being the exception, not the rule, and now Coco Jones has built a marriage on the same principle. And that missed DM is the entire origin myth of this union, because had Coco Jones seen it, had Coco Jones responded to it, this thing would have started on the internet's terms instead of theirs, and the whole trajectory would have been different. And this is where the story starts to get seriously interesting, because after that networking event, the two of them became almost impossible to separate. Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell dated for around 2 years. 2 years. In an era where celebrity relationships collapse in 6 weeks and get autopsied on TikTok for the next 6 months, Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell managed to date for 2 years, and the internet barely got a single confirmed photograph out of them. Coco Jones refused to confirm anything for the longest time. Coco Jones refused to feed the machine. And that discipline, that refusal, is exactly what allowed the relationship to breathe and grow into the thing we are watching right now. Because when the dust settles on this era, and it will settle, the couples who lasted are going to be the couples who understood that privacy is the ultimate luxury. And Donovan Mitchell, for his part, matched that discipline step for step. Donovan Mitchell did not post cryptic captions. Donovan Mitchell did not float rumors. Donovan Mitchell locked in and did his job on the court while Coco Jones locked in and did her job in the studio, and both of them let the noise be somebody else's problem. Then came July 11th of last year. And this is the moment that flipped everything. Donovan Mitchell proposed to Coco Jones poolside, surrounded by palm trees, on vacation. No press. No leak. No staged posts. Just Donovan Mitchell, Coco Jones, and a question that changed both of their lives. And by the way, do not sleep on the detail of the palm trees, because in a world where these celebrity proposals have turned into brand activations with sponsorship logos hovering in the background, Donovan Mitchell chose a location that meant something to them personally instead of something that would trend on Twitter. That is a small detail. But small details tell you everything about the character of the people involved. And when you compare that proposal to some of the ring reveals we have seen in the last 2 years, where artists have flown out entire film crews to capture their partner's reaction from 6 different angles, Donovan Mitchell's move looks even more elegant. Donovan Mitchell did not need 6 angles. Donovan Mitchell needed 1 yes. And Coco Jones gave it to him. Which brings us to the second layer of why this wedding matters more than the blogs are giving it credit for. Because right now, both Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell are not just riding a wave. Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell are 2 people at the exact peak of their respective empires, and the timing of this union is almost too perfect to be accidental. Donovan Mitchell just signed a $273 million extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers that runs all the way through 2031. Let that number settle in. $273 million. And that is a contract that does not just cement Donovan Mitchell as one of the highest paid guards in the entire league. That is a contract that essentially reshapes what Donovan Mitchell's family will look like for the next several generations. And Donovan Mitchell just tied himself to a woman who is having the most important artistic year of her career right at the exact same time. That is not luck. That is not chance. That is 2 people who understood exactly what season they were both in, and chose to lock the door together at the exact right moment. Because Coco Jones is not standing still while Donovan Mitchell is out here breaking bags. Coco Jones is in her own moment. Coco Jones just picked up 2 brand new Grammy nominations, and Coco Jones has been quietly building a musical catalog that critics have been struggling to properly categorize because Coco Jones refuses to sit inside any of the boxes the industry keeps trying to build around her. When you stack the Donovan Mitchell contract next to the Coco Jones Grammy run, what you get is not a celebrity couple. What you get is a 2-person conglomerate. What you get is the kind of household that used to only exist in the Jay and Beyoncé conversation. And I know some people are going to hear that comparison and immediately want to fight me in the comments, but hear me out for a second. Because the parallels are cleaner than they look. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Zoom out for a second. When Jay and Beyoncé first got together, nobody was calling them a dynasty either. Nobody was talking about them like a cultural institution. It took years of consistent execution, quiet building, and refusing to feed the tabloids for that partnership to reveal itself as the model it eventually became. Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell are following that exact same blueprint. Silent building. Public commitment only when the foundation is unshakable. Financial dominance in two completely different lanes so neither one of them is dependent on the other. Coco Jones does not need Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell does not need Coco Jones. And that is precisely why this partnership is going to work. This is not a survival marriage. This is a vision marriage. And a vision marriage, built on parallel dominance instead of dependency, is the only kind of celebrity marriage that has ever survived the modern media meat grinder. And this is where the story takes a sharper turn, because while Coco Jones was busy walking into the future in a creamlit tent, the rest of the internet was busy trying to drag a very different woman through the mud in the exact same news cycle. I am talking about Cardi B. Because in the same 48-hour window that Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell were celebrating one of the most beautiful unions of the year, Cardi B was out here defending herself against a viral video that has taken the entire timeline hostage. And the timing of it, is something I want everybody to pay very close attention to. Because there is a pattern here, and once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. And once I lay it out for you, you are going to understand why this Cardi B situation and the Coco Jones wedding are actually connected at a level nobody is talking about. Here is what happened with Cardi B. A video started circulating on Twitter of a woman who allegedly looks like Cardi B getting into a physical altercation with another woman. The video is old. The video is blurry. The video is grainy in the kind of way that makes it almost impossible to confirm any faces. And yet a certain Twitter page decided to post the clip with a caption saying that this woman was quote-unquote making the ish out of Cardi. And the internet, being the internet, did what the internet always does. The internet ran with it. The internet dressed the clip up in Cardi B's name and pushed it into every algorithm it could reach. And Cardi B, who lives on Twitter more than most people live in their own homes, saw the whole thing unfold in real time and clapped back the way only Cardi B can. Cardi B looked at that clip, looked at the caption, and asked one simple question. Now where in the hell am I in this video? And this is where you really have to slow down and think, because a figure like Cardi B is not shy. Cardi B has never once in her career pretended she was somebody she is not. If that video really was Cardi B fighting, Cardi B would have already owned it. Cardi B would have already turned it into a punchline. Cardi B would have already flipped it into promo for the next single. That is who Cardi B is. Cardi B does not run from her past. Cardi B builds a whole discography out of it. So when Cardi B says that is not her in the video, and I looked at the clip myself and the video quality is so bad you cannot even tell what decade it was filmed in, that tells you exactly what is going on here. Somebody is playing a game, and Cardi B is not going to lose it. And here is where the pattern I mentioned earlier reveals itself. Because Cardi B is not just having a random bad news day. Cardi B is having a moment. Cardi B just dropped her new single, Aha, and this song has been climbing the Billboard charts in a way that has clearly rattled some corners of the industry. When the single first hit, Aha debuted at number 94 on the Billboard chart with somewhere around 400,000 streams on day one. And a lot of people looked at those numbers and tried to write Cardi B off. A lot of people said the song was cooked. A lot of people said Cardi B had lost the room. But here is the thing about Cardi B. You cannot count Cardi B out. Because within days, Aha started climbing. Aha started stacking. Aha started punching into the top 10 on iTunes and rolling past 1 million+ streams, and suddenly the same people who were writing the song off had to sit there and watch Cardi B do exactly what Cardi B has always done. Turn a slow start into a stampede. Which is exactly the moment, and I mean the exact moment, that this old blurry fighting video suddenly resurfaced. So you tell me. Does that timing feel accidental to you? Because it doesn't feel accidental to me. And here's the thing about how the industry works out of the spotlight. When an artist is winning, when an artist is climbing, when an artist is threatening to reclaim territory they lost, the machine finds a way to muddy the water. That is not a Cardi B conspiracy theory. That is a fact about how the music business has operated for decades. And whether or not that fighting video is Cardi B, and I do not think it is, the real story is that the moment Cardi B started climbing, somebody decided it was time to hand the timeline a distraction. And whoever that somebody is, they are going to find out very quickly that trying to distract from a Cardi B run is like trying to blow out a wildfire with a paper fan. And Cardi B, in true Cardi B fashion, is not backing down. Cardi B is not shrinking. Cardi B is not hiding. Cardi B is standing on the internet, telling everybody exactly where the hell she is not in that video, and daring the world to argue with her. And that, right there, is the reason Cardi B has survived every single wave the industry has thrown at her. Because a woman like Cardi B does not need a PR team to fight her battles. Cardi B fights them herself, in real time, in front of millions of people, without blinking. And every single time she does it, her fan base gets louder, her streams get higher, and her critics get quieter. This is the Cardi B loop, and it has been undefeated for almost a decade now. Now here is where the story bridges back into itself, because I want you to notice something. In one lane, you have Coco Jones, a woman who built her empire on discipline, silence, and long games. In another lane, you have Cardi B, a woman who built her empire on volume, confrontation, and fearless self-defense. And even though these two artists could not appear more different from the outside, both of them are demonstrating the exact same underlying principle right now. Both of them are refusing to be defined by anybody except themselves. Coco Jones is defining herself as a wife, a Grammy contender, and a Mitchell on her own terms. Cardi B is defining herself as a hitmaker, a mother of four, and a woman who will not be dragged through anyone else's narrative on her own terms. That is the through line. That is the connective tissue. And that is why both of these stories landed in the same news cycle, because the culture is quietly deciding what kind of women it wants to elevate right now, and both of these women, in wildly different ways, are answering the call. And I have to spend a second on Cardi B specifically, because there is another dimension to this story that a lot of people are missing. Cardi B, at this stage of her career, is a mother of four. And every time Cardi B steps out and enjoys her life, every time Cardi B shows up in a club, every time Cardi B decides to celebrate the fact that she is human and young and successful, a whole army of people crawl out of the woodwork to shame her for it. Cardi B addressed this recently in the most Cardi B way possible, and I want to walk through what she said because it applies to more than just Cardi B. It applies to every woman in the industry who is being told to shrink. And once you hear what Cardi B actually said, you are going to understand why she has become the most quietly influential voice in the entire genre. Cardi B said, and I am paraphrasing here, that she is tired of being judged for enjoying her own money. Cardi B said that if she is going to drop $10,000 on a section in a club, and $8,000 on bottles, and $2,000 more on hookah, then Cardi B is going to enjoy every single second of that section. Cardi B is not going to the club to be a mannequin. Cardi B is not going to the club so that people can pull out their phones and film her while she stands still like an art exhibit. Cardi B is going to the club to enjoy her own money, because Cardi B earned every dollar of it. And when Cardi B said that, she was speaking for a generation of women who have been told that success comes with a silent agreement to disappear. Cardi B was speaking for every woman who has been told that motherhood is supposed to erase her personality. Cardi B was speaking for every woman who has been told that once you turn 30, once you have kids, once you get a certain kind of career, you are supposed to sit down, shut up, and let the young girls have the spotlight. And that ties directly back to Coco Jones, because Coco Jones is fighting the exact same battle in the exact same industry, just with a different weapon. Coco Jones's weapon is silence. Cardi B's weapon is volume. And both weapons work. And both women are proving something that this industry has been trying to hide for years, which is that a woman does not have to shrink to succeed. A woman does not have to disappear to be respected. A woman can be loud, or a woman can be quiet, and the woman still gets to win. And the fact that Coco Jones and Cardi B are two completely different templates for winning tells you exactly how big this cultural shift actually is. Because when there is only one way to win, that means only one kind of woman gets to. When there are multiple ways to win, everybody gets a shot. Which brings us to the part of this story I have been building toward this entire time. Because when I look at what Coco Jones just did on Saturday, and I look at what Cardi B is doing on Twitter, and I look at where both of these women are in their careers, I think the receipts speak for themselves. What we are watching, in real time, is a redefinition of what a successful woman in this culture is allowed to look like. Coco Jones just proved you can build a marriage the same way you build an empire. Cardi B just proved you can defend your name and stack your streams at the exact same time. And when the dust settles on this whole moment, I think we are going to look back at this specific week and realize we watched two very different women win, in two very different ways, without either one of them having to compromise a single inch of who they actually are. And the reason I am spending so much time on this is because a moment like this doesn't happen every day. A moment like this doesn't happen every year. When you get two artists, in two completely different lanes, both hitting career-defining peaks in the same news cycle, that is a cultural crossroads. That is the kind of moment that historians will point to years from now when they try to explain what shifted in the industry. That is the kind of moment that gets studied. And you, sitting here watching this right now, get to say you saw it in real time. And that, honestly, is part of why I could not sit on this story quietly. Because you deserve to know that what you are watching is not gossip. What you are watching is a chapter of culture being written in real time by two women who refuse to hand anybody else the pen. But here is what nobody in the mainstream press is going to tell you, and here is where I want to zoom all the way out for a second. Because there is a bigger story underneath both the Coco Jones wedding and the Cardi B controversy, and it is a story about who gets to write the narrative in this culture. For years, and I mean years, the entertainment media has decided which black women get elevated and which black women get torn down. The blogs have decided who is a queen and who is a target. The gossip pages have decided which relationships get respected and which ones get picked apart. But right now, in this exact moment, both Coco Jones and Cardi B are showing you what it looks like when a woman refuses to let anybody else hold the pen. Coco Jones refused to let the blogs write her love story, so she kept it private for 2 years until she was ready to reveal it on her own terms. Cardi B refused to let a Twitter account write her narrative, so she jumped on the app and rewrote it herself in real time. That is agency. That is authorship. That is what winning actually looks like. And here's what makes this even more explosive. Both of these women are doing it while the industry is watching. Both of these women are doing it while the internet is watching. Both of these women are doing it while every rival, every hater, every opportunist, and every silent envier is watching. And neither one of them is flinching. Coco Jones did not flinch when the paparazzi tried to sniff out her relationship for 2 straight years. Cardi B did not flinch when a fake video tried to hijack her singles momentum. Both of them stood on their names, planted their feet, and refused to move an inch. And that kind of refusal, that kind of quiet ferocity, is exactly what separates the artists who last from the artists who evaporate. Now, let me plant a seed for a second, because there is something I have been thinking about the entire time I have been putting this together. And it is this. If Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell are going to end up becoming the next great sports and music dynasty, and I truly do believe they will, then the pressure on both of them is about to become unlike anything either one of them has faced before. Because the internet has a very specific pattern with couples like this. First, the internet celebrates you. Then, the internet studies you. Then, the internet starts trying to find cracks. And I need everybody to be honest about what is coming, because in about 6 months, the same platforms that are showering Coco Jones with praise right now are going to start looking for reasons to tear the whole thing down. That is the reality of being famous in 2026. The love is always followed by the audit. And whether Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell survive that audit or not is going to say more about them than any wedding video ever could. But I am going to tell you why I think this one is going to survive. And it comes down to one word, and that word is timing. Because Coco Jones did not marry Donovan Mitchell in year 1 of her career. Coco Jones married Donovan Mitchell after she had already put in the work. Coco Jones already has her Grammy nominations. Coco Jones already has her acting resume. Coco Jones already has her identity carved out in stone. That means when the internet inevitably tries to reduce Coco Jones to Mrs. Mitchell, they are going to run face first into a woman who has already made herself impossible to erase. And that, right there, is why the 2-year delay on this relationship confirmation was not just romantic. It was strategic. Coco Jones let herself become undeniable before she let herself become somebody's wife. And that is a masterclass in career architecture that every young woman in this industry should tape to their bathroom mirror. This is the playbook. This is the map. This is what winning under pressure actually looks like. Meanwhile, Cardi B is out here proving that no amount of tabloid smoke can dim a real career fire. Because while all of these old videos are being recycled and repackaged and pushed back into circulation to distract people from Cardi B's new single, that single is still climbing. That single is still adding streams. That single is still refusing to fall off. And here is the wild part. The controversy might actually be helping. Because every time somebody reposts one of those old Cardi B fighting clips, the algorithm serves up, aha, right next to it. Every time somebody argues about whether the woman in the blurry video is really Cardi B, they are keeping Cardi B's name at the top of the trending list. And in this industry, staying at the top of the trending list is more valuable than any award. Cardi B might be losing the vibe war and winning the streaming war at the exact same time, and if that is not the most Cardi B thing I have ever heard, I don't know what is. Now, I want to talk about the men in this story for a second, because both Donovan Mitchell and whatever man is standing next to Cardi B right now are going to be tested in the coming months in ways that most people are not going to see coming. Because being married to a Coco Jones is not a passive job. Being connected to a Cardi B is not a passive job. These are women with empires, women with schedules, women with millions of eyes on them. And the men in their lives are going to have to figure out very quickly whether they are partners or whether they are accessories. Donovan Mitchell has already shown that he understands the assignment. He kept the proposal private. He kept the relationship quiet. He let Coco Jones lead the reveal. That is the sign of a man who is secure enough not to compete with his own wife. That is the sign of a marriage that has a real shot. And when you compare the way Donovan Mitchell moved with the way a lot of other men in the industry move, you start to realize how rare Donovan Mitchell actually is. Because the standard playbook for a rich athlete in a public relationship is to flood the timeline with expensive gifts, staged dates, and posts calculated for engagement. Donovan Mitchell did none of that. Donovan Mitchell showed up when it mattered. Donovan Mitchell disappeared when it didn't. And Donovan Mitchell let his wife's career grow beside his own without ever trying to steal her light. That is what real partnership looks like. And if more men in the industry were operating on Donovan Mitchell's frequency, we would be having a very different conversation about celebrity marriages right now. Donovan Mitchell is a case study in how to love a powerful woman without trying to shrink her. At this point in the story, some of you are probably wondering where all of this leaves the rest of the culture. And that is a fair question, so let me hit it directly. What Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell just did, and what Cardi B is doing in her own arena, is opening a door for a whole new generation of artists and athletes to walk through. Because for years, the industry has told young women in music and young men in sports that they cannot have both. You cannot have the career and the marriage. You cannot have the money and the peace. You cannot have the fame and the privacy. But Coco Jones just walked down an aisle in Saturday's tent and proved that entire narrative wrong in a single afternoon. And Cardi B is over on Twitter proving that you can be a mother of 4, a chart-climbing artist, and a woman who defends her own name without missing a beat. Now let me get honest with you for a second, because I think it needs to be said. There are going to be people watching this who feel some kind of way about how much time I am spending celebrating black women in this piece. There are going to be people in the comments who try to twist this into something it isn't. And to those people, I just want to say the following. Coco Jones earned this. Cardi B earned this. Donovan Mitchell earned this. Nobody in this story got here by accident. Nobody in this story got a shortcut. Nobody in this story was handed anything. Every single one of them built what they have with their own 2 hands, and every single one of them deserves the flowers they are getting right now. And if the culture cannot handle giving black women their flowers while they are still standing, then the culture is the problem, not the flowers. And let me take this even a step further, because it deserves to be said. The reason stories like the Coco Jones wedding and the Cardi B moment matter so much right now is because young girls are watching. Young girls who are trying to figure out whether they can be soft and successful. Young girls who are trying to figure out whether they can be loud and respected. Young girls who are trying to figure out whether they can build both a career and a family. And when a Coco Jones walks down that aisle in that creamlit tent, and when a Cardi B stands on that internet and refuses to be dragged, those young girls are getting an answer. And the answer, in both cases, is yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can have it. Yes, you can build it. Yes, you can defend it. And that is worth more than every headline the blogs will write about either of these women combined. I also want to circle back to Donovan Mitchell for a second, because his role in this story is being underestimated in a big way. Donovan Mitchell is a two-time NBA All-Star, a franchise cornerstone in Cleveland, and one of the most consistent scorers of his generation. Donovan Mitchell has been carrying real professional weight for years, and Donovan Mitchell decided to marry a Grammy-nominated artist at the exact moment his own career is peaking. That takes emotional intelligence most young men in his position do not have. That takes the ability to distinguish between what looks good and what actually is good. And Donovan Mitchell chose what is actually good. Donovan Mitchell chose Coco Jones. And Coco Jones chose Donovan Mitchell right back. That is what a real partnership looks like on paper and in practice. And I want to close on this thought, because I think it captures why this week matters. Coco Jones just showed you that you can build love the same way you build a career. Slowly. Privately. On purpose. Cardi B just showed you that you can defend your name the same way you build a hit. Loudly. Fearlessly. In public. And Donovan Mitchell just showed you that the loudest thing a man can do in a real relationship is to make sure his woman's light shines brighter than his own, even when he has just signed a $273 million contract. That is character. That is chemistry. That is culture done right. And when historians look back on this week, they are not going to be talking about a wedding, and they are not going to be talking about a viral video. They are going to be talking about the moment three separate people, in three separate lanes, quietly rewrote the rules for how power and privacy are supposed to coexist in modern celebrity life. So here is my ask before we close this thing out. Drop me a comment and tell me what you think. Do you believe Coco Jones and Donovan Mitchell are about to become the next Jay and Beyoncé of their generation, or do you think the internet is about to try to tear this thing apart the way it tears everything apart? Do you believe the Cardi B fighting video is a real clip, or do you believe somebody strategically resurfaced it to distract from her chart run? And which one of these women, if you had to pick one, has the blueprint you would follow if you were starting a career from scratch tomorrow? Because I already know what I would answer, but I want to hear what all of you think first. Drop it in the comments. Argue with each other. Debate it out. That is where the real culture happens. And listen, if you made it all the way to the end of this one, I appreciate you more than you know. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. And more importantly, tell somebody about this video, because a story like this deserves to be talked about outside of our little corner of the internet. Coco Jones deserves that. Cardi B deserves that. Donovan Mitchell deserves that. And the next time somebody in your life tries to tell you that this generation doesn't know how to build anything real, show them what Coco Jones just built. Show them what Cardi B just defended. Show them what Donovan Mitchell just committed to. And then tell them to log off and try again. Because the receipts, as I said at the top of this thing, speak for themselves. And this week, the receipts are loud. See you in the next one.